Welcome back to another episode of the Switch Survival Guide. Today I am really excited because I am going to teach you one of the biggest game-changing tricks that I know on Ark, and that is how to build the Floating Fortress. This fortress will allow you to have an almost impervious base, which hardly any dinosaurs can be a threat to, and you can take everything you need with you and sail up the coast or rivers anywhere on the island. Everywhere you go, your base is there with you. Now, it's got enough space on the inside to spread out and put almost anything you're going to need throughout this entire game, and it also has a courtyard that you can use to keep your dinosaurs safe, or you can tame wild dinosaurs and tame even something as big as a tyrannosaur without taking any damage to yourself or your base. And the most important and most helpful thing about this base is it's all built on a raft, which means anywhere you explore in the entire game, you can just take your house with you and you never have to be too far from all of your helpful dinos and all of your amenities on your base. So be sure to watch the rest of this episode and I will teach you step by step how to build every square of this base. Now, before we get started, I will let you know this is a long video, so I'm putting some links in the description where you can skip around, but it's really important that you hear these disclaimers. First of all, you will have to modify your server settings in order to be able to build this on a regular raft, or you can build this on a motorboat, which you can unlock at level 57 without changing any settings or on any server. So please keep that in mind. We'll go over that some more soon. Also, this can be destroyed by whales or alpha predators, but those are the only things that are a threat to this base. And I will teach you in the next couple episodes how to keep it safe even from those. So this will be the first in a series of episodes about how to build and use the Floating Fortress, and this episode will mostly cover how to sink foundations into the raft to create an armored foundation that protects the raft from almost any dinosaurs and makes your base almost completely invincible. And we'll also explain how the size limitations of building on a raft and the best dimensions for making a base. We're actually going to make this base 6 foundations long by 5 foundations wide, and this next section will explain why we chose that size and some of the limitations for building on a raft platform. Now, before we start building, let me show you how utterly nerdy I am and pull up some Excel diagrams that I made. The diagram on the left shows you how far out from the rudder you can build. The R marked on there is the rudder, and that's the center of all raft builds. The darkest green shows where the raft itself is, and the medium green shows how far out you can extend foundations and still be able to place walls and structures on them. The lightest green, you can technically put foundations that far out, but you probably will be too far from the rudder to put walls around them. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see the actual build that we are going to be doing here. Everything in blue is going to have a foundation on it, and we'll build up from there. So the maximum structures on a normal raft is 70, which is not enough to make this build or most builds. So don't try to build this on a raft unless you can change your server settings, which I will teach you how to do in the next section. But if you are at level 57, you can unlock the motorboat, which will allow you to build 138 structures, which is more than enough to actually do this floor plan. We're going to use about 100 structures, which will leave us with about 38 structures left to build all of the amenities of our base and some defense turrets, which I'll teach you how to do pretty soon. Now, there's actually a setting which will allow you to increase the structure limit on even a normal raft, and if you are a server admin, you can do that, or if you're playing single player, just go to your settings and under the advanced tab, head to the very last setting on the entire list, which is increase platform structure limit. And once you bump that to its max, you can actually put 350 platforms even on a regular raft. I've crafted a raft and placed it in my hotbar, and I'll just use that item to drop it into the water. And from there, we can actually sail the raft into some deeper water. We'll make sure there's no sharks, but we can't build this in super shallow water or we might have issues with the foundations trying to snap onto the bottom of the ocean. So we'll reposition that, and then I'm going to come out here with a bunch of thatch foundations and wooden pillars. We need probably 5 or 10 of each just to be safe. And I like thatch foundations because they've got those poles sticking down that we can use to line it up evenly with that bar on the edge of the raft. Now, if I hop on the rudder, it will center my camera against the mast there, and that makes it a little easier to line it up. Now we want to place so the poles are sticking through that little bar that goes across the bottom, and the center of this foundation is right on the middle of the mast there. It's real important to line up this first foundation perfectly, so we'll take some time to do that, and we're going to look at it before we place it just to make sure that's pretty close even there, and that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and snap that down there. Now, we have our base, which is the first thing we want to do, but as you can see here, it's way up above the raft, and we actually want to sink that into the raft so the foundations cover the bottom. Now, if I hold down the X button, I can hide the sail under the options, and that makes that sail disappear. So I'm going to place a wooden pillar into the center of this foundation, and it's going to snap into the very middle there. Now, normally I would be demolishing these thatch foundations, but I've actually got this nice update which lets me pick them back up for 30 seconds. And now that we have the pillar there, our foundations will allow us to snap on either side of the pillar, and it snaps just about 6 inches lower than the original foundation. So now I can clear this pillar and place another wooden pillar in the center of this foundation, and that will create a snap point that's a little bit lower than that last one. And so as you can kind of start to see, it's getting closer and closer to the floor of this raft. And I'll put another pillar there and show you. You can see there's 2 snap points. One of them is snapping to the foundation, and one of them is snapping to the wooden pillar. And each time we do this, we step it down just a little bit further down. Now, if you don't have this mod that I have, you're going to have to demolish your foundations each time you do this, so you will have to go through quite a few thatch foundations and wooden pillars, but trust me, it's worth it. You are protecting the bottom of your raft and making it so this base will be practically invincible, and nothing can destroy it unless it can destroy the stone foundations that will be protecting the bottom. So we should be pretty close to the floor here, and I think maybe one more down will actually start to get just about to the bottom of that raft, so that's just about perfect. It's also a lot easier to snap these properly if you take the floor out but leave the pillar, and that keeps it from trying to snap to the other spot. Now that is just about where I want that. And if you could see the bottom of the raft, the foundation would be sticking out the bottom. So I'll show you here, if I try to snap one more down, it actually goes into the floor of the raft, which we don't want it that low because that leaves the deck of the raft exposed. So this is the perfect spot right here. So now that we have a thatch foundation where we want it, we can actually snap the stone foundations to that thatch foundation, and they will snap to the same level, which will actually protect the top of the raft and the bottom. So the raft is sandwiched completely between stone foundations, and it cannot be damaged by anything that can't damage a stone foundation, which means it's invincible to most animals. Now, the rudder is a little sticky because if we put a stone foundation at this level, we will not be able to use the rudder because the stone foundation will actually cover that. So we need to sink just this one foundation one step lower. So I'm going to pull out that wooden pillar again, and we'll do just like we were doing earlier. And you can see here that it gives me an option to snap it one step lower down on the deck. And I want to do that. Now, if you have trouble switching between 2 snap points, hit the top R button and that will toggle between 2 snap points. I'm going to go ahead and replace that thatch foundation with a stone one. And then I've got to be careful because this stone one will actually give me 2 snap points also. And I want everything except that rudder foundation to snap to the higher level so it completely covers the deck. I'm also going to leave a hole in the middle for now because that allows me to swim up through the bottom and get onto the raft. If I cover up the entire raft and have no way to get onto the top of it, I'm going to have to figure out some way because I can't get up onto the raft and jump up from the water if I've got stone foundations all the way around. So I'll go ahead and demolish this wooden pillar, and we now have the base foundation that's covering up the entire raft and protecting most of that. So after that, we are actually going to need to extend this foundation further. So I'm going to grab some more supplies and I'll be right back. And we're back. I went ahead and moved my old raft up to the new raft because I've got most of the supplies that we need in that storage box on the deck. I can also use my old raft as a ramp to get onto this raft if we fall in the water, so I went ahead and filled in that center foundation since we don't need that gap anymore. And I want to extend this raft further out, but you cannot snap a foundation against these other foundations. But we have a nice little trick to get around that. If we snap a ceiling out of the side, I use thatch because we're going to be using and breaking these ceilings, you can actually snap a stone foundation to the bottom of that ceiling, and it counts as being attached to the raft. So as long as we keep putting down a thatch ceiling and then a stone foundation underneath it, and then removing the thatch ceiling, we can keep extending this raft out. Now, I want this to go 2 foundations to the left of the rudder and 2 foundations to the right, and now I want to stretch this out towards the back. But, as you can see here, this actually snapped the foundation to the rudder's foundation level, and not the main platform level. I know this is kind of nitpicky, but it will make it a lot harder to build if we have 2 separate levels here. So I'm actually going to extend these stone foundations out from this foundation on the side. And as you can see here, there's 2 different levels it wants to snap to, either the one at the higher level or the one at the rudder's level. So I'm going to make sure that it snaps to the top level there and place that foundation. Once again, we're tapping the top right bumper to switch between snap points. And there we go. We just have this one tile where the rudder is that is a slight bit lower than the others. And the reason I don't mind having the deck exposed next to the rudder is we're actually going to build a building around that, which will cover and protect that rudder so that it does not get hit by predators. So we now have our full dimensions to the right, left, forward, and back. We have 2 squares forward, 2 squares left and right, and then 3 squares back from the main rudder. And once again, the rudder is actually the center of the raft build. So we have the dimensions exactly where we want them now, and we will go ahead and continue filling out the rest of this raft. Now, once I've got my fully extended dimensions, I can actually go ahead and place this ramp because I'm going to want a ramp on the right and left-hand sides on the edge there. So now that I'm going to have this where I'm going to keep it, I'll go ahead and place that ramp down for easy access. And once again, if you want to place a ramp earlier, you can, but you will have to demolish it before you're done with the build because it'll be in your way. So I'm just saving a little bit of materials this way. So I'm going to just go really quickly forward as I'm extending the rest of this raft out, and we are just going to fill in all the dimensions here until it extends all the way back, forward, right, and left. And we'll have a nice big rectangular foundation which will serve as the base for this entire raft build. And here we go. That was the last tile, and we now have the entire stone foundation set up. And the final dimensions are going to be 6 squares long by 5 squares wide, and this entire foundation is completely armored, and nothing can destroy it aside from alpha predators and whales, which is pretty nice. We're not going to run into very many of those. So I hope this was really helpful. This will give you the main foundation dimensions that you need to start this raft build. And in the next episode, we are actually going to add all of the walls, ceilings, and all of the dinosaur gateways and everything that we're going to need for the main structure of the rest of the fortress. And pretty soon after that, we'll show you how to make turrets to defend yourself against even alpha predators and whales. By the time we're done with this series, this base will just be an unstoppable force, which will allow you to go on expeditions all over the island and have a totally safe, secure, and practically invincible base. So tune in next time and we will show you how to build the rest of this amazing fortress, and be sure to subscribe to this channel and make sure your notifications are enabled so it will let you know as soon as the next episode comes out and you can finish building your awesome raft. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching this video from the Ark Survival Guide. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more great guides like this one. Ark is an amazing game, but there is so much to learn before you can really enjoy it. We are dedicated to bringing you high-quality guides, tutorials, and Let's Play videos that are fun, helpful, clean, and suitable for the entire family. There's a tutorial in this series for everything we have done so far in this video. Check out these playlists for more episodes from this series and other guides to help you enjoy your journey on Ark.